The hour of convening having arrived, all members of the House will please report to their assigned seats. All members of this House will please report to their seats. The clerk will ring the bell. Yeah. Although I'm... All right, we're going to have the morning roll call. All members present will please vote green to signify their presence in the chamber, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. Doorkeepers will please close the doors and keep them closed. I usually begin by wishing you a good morning, and I will do that. So good morning. But I know this morning that I share with you the outrage and the shock and grief over the senseless violence which claimed the lives yesterday afternoon of 8 people, most of whom were Asian American. As a society, we cannot tolerate this lawlessness. Only evil can walk into a small business and wantonly gun down innocent people. There will be plenty of opportunity to determine motive and all the circumstances surrounding these hideous crimes. Our justice system will work. But today is a day to remember. It's a day to remember the lives of 8 people, to mourn their loss, and to lift up their family and friends in prayer. May God bless and comfort them during this most difficult time. Thank you very much. We will begin our day now with scripture reading and prayer by the chaplain, after which we will pledge allegiance to the flag of our country. Our chaplain this morning will be introduced by the lady from the 131st House District, Representative Beth Kemp. Representative Kemp.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members of the House. Pastor Billy Smith is a friend to everyone. He is one of the most humble people that I know. When I asked Pastor Billy if he would come and speak with us and send me his bio, he simply sent me 3 sentences. Like I said, he is very humble. Painted on the wall of the massive entry space at the new church building, it was just finished last summer, is the phrase, "Saved people serve people." And it commands attention. Pastor Billy and his team and the members truly live by this message. I came to know Pastor Billy because I was a volunteer in the backpack program, which Christ Chapel orchestrates. It's a multifaceted outreach program, and they help kids who have food insecurity. kids who don't have food on the weekends. And these volunteers come and they lovingly pack this food. They bring it to the schools, and very discreetly is this food given out via teachers and school buses. During the pandemic, Christ Chapel covertly delivered many rolls of toilet paper. Maybe not because people needed the toilet paper, but as a way to show that they were being thought of. Pastor Billy and his team wanted to share the good news, even during the pandemic. So one Sunday morning, I received a text from a dear friend saying, if you want to come to church, come to the field across from the school. And when I got there, I was shocked. There were hundreds of cars. Everyone had their windows down, and they had every speaker they possibly could, so everyone would have an opportunity to hear the good news of the gospel. Christ Chapel loves people and encourages community building by serving others, as Christ showed through his example both spiritually and temporally. The scripture comes to mind, Matthew 7:20, "Wherefore by their fruits ye shall know them." Billy Smith does not have to tell others about his church. He simply shows them. Billy and his wife Tina started Christ Chapel Community Church in Zebulon in 2003. Christ Chapel has about 2,000 people attending weekend services. His family consists of his wife Tina, of course, and 4 beautiful children, Cole, Lainey, Max, and Ruby. And at this time, I would like to introduce Pastor Billy Smith.
Almost had to hug my representative to make it to the podium there. Hey, good morning, everybody. It's great to see you. Thanks for the leadership for allowing me to be here today, and for my representative for the invitation. I'm a stickler for rules, so it says 5 minutes. You can go ahead and start your clock. I'll be done on time. I was just asked by my church to make sure I took an offering up before I left. I said, I don't think that's going to happen up there. Be careful if you want to be asked back, right? But there is an old proverb, he who is short-winded shall be heard again. And that works for us on the weekends around our place. Several weeks ago, I was upstairs at our house, and I was giving my 2 youngest children the what for. They're 11 and 9. If you have kids that age, you know that they compete. Everything's a competition, from who can dress the quickest, to who can eat the fastest, to who can get in the car first. And I was just talking to them about their attitude. They had really been at each other, and I told them some of these things that I think are important. I said, hey, your attitude can make or break you, and your attitude can heal or hurt you. It'll make you friends or it'll make you enemies. Your attitude can make you happy or miserable. It can make you a success or failure. And when I got done talking to them, I felt really good about myself. I'm like, that's a good dad moment. Until I went to descend the stairs back to the main floor of our house, and I was overly convicted about talking to my kids about their attitude when mine had been pretty sorry lately. There's a story of an old grandfather who was having a couple of his grandkids over one weekend, and he was going to take a nap. They had been out playing, but they came in and they found some Lindbergh cheese. I don't know if you know about that, but it stinks. And while he was napping, they put it on his mustache, and when he woke up, he just kind of jolted and said, man, this bedroom stinks. He walked out into the hallway and slammed the door, and then declared that the hallway stunk as well. Went into the parlor or the living room and said the living room stinks. Went outside to the porch and took a big breath, thinking he would get a clean breath of air, and then declared the whole world stinks. But it didn't. The grandfather stunk. He had to own that. And often when it comes to my attitude, I'm pointing to people around me, and I'm really the problem. There's some things about attitude today that I want to share with you, just briefly, that I think are important. In our office, every now and then somebody will come in the morning. They'll have a rough day, maybe a rough commute, or maybe they had an argument with a spouse before they got there, and they say these words, I just got up on the wrong side of the bed. I love it when they say that because I'm always prepared. I want you to go home. I want you to undress, get in the bed, roll over, get up on the right side of the bed, redress, and come back to work, because we want to work with the attitude of Christ with all that we do at our church. Just 3 things quickly. Number 1, your attitude reveals the real you. I don't like that. I don't always like the way I respond, but that's what's in my heart. Proverbs says this in the 23rd chapter, for a man thinks in his heart, so he is. My heart exposes my attitude. There was a guy in education, a teacher who was doing an illustration for his class, and he brought in a mason jar, a canning jar, for y'all who are in rural areas like I am, and he filled it up with water, and he left the lid just loose on it. He walked into the classroom, and he began to shake it violently, and he said, does anybody know, why is this water coming out of this jar? And one of the students raised her hand and said, yes, because you didn't tighten the lid. And he said, you're right. Another student said, it's because you're shaking it. Teach, if you would just quit shaking it, it would stop spilling out. Another kid said, no, it's science. You know, it's gravity. You're shaking the can, and when you shake it, it rises, and what rises falls. It's just coming out. And he said, well, all of you are right. But there's a bigger picture. Water is coming out of the jar because water is what's in the jar. And unfortunately, when we're shaken in life, the real attitude and the real heart is exposed during those difficult seasons of our life. When we are shaken, what comes out of us is who we really are. There was a man working on a project at his house one day, and he had a bunch of people watching. They were admiring his work, and he was hammering away, and he hit his thumbnail. I don't know if anybody's ever done that before, but he hit his thumbnail, and he kind of danced around, and he kept saying, Jesus, 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 Jesus. Now, I don't know that would have been the first thought that came to my mind, but that was what he was saying. And somebody asked him, said, why do you keep saying that? He said, because that's what's in me. What's in us during difficult times is exposed on the outside of us. Number 2, attitude determines the success and failure of every relationship we have. Whether that's with our wives or our husbands, our spouses, our kids, our friends, our coworkers, all of those relationships are either strengthened or they're weakened by good or bad attitudes. In the Old Testament, in the book of Numbers, there's a guy named Moses. Maybe you remember him. He went up on the mountain, got the 10 Commandments, came back down, led the Israelites out of Egyptian captivity. Pretty important Old Testament guy. But he had some family members who had a really bad attitude, Miriam and Aaron. Now their excuse for the attitude was that he had married outside of their tribe, but that was just their excuse. They were really jealous that Moses had been given permission from God to lead. See, the leaves on the tree were, hey, you married outside the tribe. But the root was jealousy. Here's what I'm trying to say today. Is our family relationships, our work relationships, all of those are determined whether they're going to be good, bad, poor, or healthy based off our attitudes. The third and final thing is this. Attitude is always our choice. Nobody controls our health and our emotions but us. It's always our choice. Often you'll hear people say, I just had a bad day. Well, those circumstances don't determine your attitude. We do. I love a guy one time who was asked the question about his college career, about his academics. They said, were you in the top half of the class? And he said, no, I'm sorry to say I wasn't in the top half of the class, but I'm happy to announce that I was in the part of the class that made the top half possible. Right? There's summa cum laude, and then there's thank you laude. Is anybody with me this morning, right? Just thankful I got out. But his attitude was this, you know what? I didn't finish in the top half, but I did finish. There was a Holocaust survivor named Dr. Viktor Frankl. Endured the unimaginable. When he got to the concentration camp, they took his clothes away from him. They took his watch. They took his wedding band that his wife had given him on his wedding day. And they tried to take his dignity. But what they couldn't take was his attitude. He says he survived not because he was stronger than everybody else, but because he had an attitude that reflected joy, hope, and positivity. One last thing, and then we're going to pray together. Every morning across this nation, 2 birds leave looking for a meal. One's a vulture, and he's looking for things that are dead and rotten and things that smell. And guess what? He finds it. But over the same deserts in our country every day, hummingbirds also leave looking for a meal. They're looking for something that's sweet and something that's fresh and something that's good and wholesome. And guess what? They find it. And I think today when it comes to my attitude and yours, this sounds like a kids' church sermon, doesn't it? But the more I talk about attitude, the more I realize it isn't for kids, it's for grown folks like me. I'm just asking you today to evaluate throughout the day how you treat people, how you honor people, how you love and care for people. Today is the anniversary of my dad passing away. He passed away 1 year ago today. Have his tile in his honor. I wanted to do that today. One thing my dad left me, we weren't rich. We were just a rural, middle-class family. But he taught me you get up every day. You treat people fair, you treat people right, and you determine your own attitude. I'm just asking you to do the same today. Let's reflect the attitude, the heart, and the mind of Christ. Thank you so much for an opportunity today. Will you bow and let's pray? Father, today, thank you for this house and what it represents. We have an incredible nation and a great state. And I'm so proud of what's happened here over the course of the last year during a very difficult season, maybe our country's most difficult. Man, but the hardship and the perseverance has done nothing but make us stronger and make us better. I pray for every house member who's here today. I pray for their families and their homes. I pray that you bless them and you keep them safe. And I pray those things in Christ's name. And we all say together, amen. We're going to do the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Doorkeepers will unlock the doors. Chair recognizes Chairman Hogan, the chair of the Committee on Information and Audits.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Information and Audits has read the journal of the previous legislative day and found it to be correct. And furthermore, Mr. Speaker, a cup of Irish blessings for you today. May the good Lord take a liking to you, but not too soon. If you're lucky enough to be Irish, you're lucky enough.
Words to live by. Chairman Hogan, the chair of the Committee on Information and Audits, reports that the journal of the previous legislative day has been read and found to be correct. Is there any objection to the confirmation of the journal? The chair hears none, and the journal is confirmed. The clerk will read the resolution establishing the order of business for the day.
Mr. Burns, the 159th moves following be established as the order of business during the first part of the period. Unanimous consents. Introduction of bills and resolutions. First reading and reference of House bills and resolutions. Second reading of bills and resolutions. Reports of standing committees. First reading and reference of Senate bills and resolutions. Morning orders.
Is there any objection to the adoption of the resolution establishing the order of business for the day? The chair hears none, and the resolution is adopted. First reading of bills and resolutions. The clerk will read.
House Bill 761 by Representative Carter, the 92nd, Kendrick of the 93rd, Davis of the 87th, Drunner of the 85th, Taylor of the 91st, and others. Bill be titled an act to amend an act to provide a new charter for the city of
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 762 by Representative Maynard, the 56th, Thomas, the 65th, Evans, the 57th, Roberts, the 52nd, Moore, the 95th, and others. Bill be titled an act to create the Fulton Technology and Energy Enhancement Authority.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 763 by Representative Hill of the 3rd and Tarver of the 2nd. Bill be titled an act to amend an act creating the Office of Commissioner of Catoosa County.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 764 764 by Representative Hill of the 3rd and Tarvin of the 2nd, a bill being titled an act to authorize the city of Fort Oglethorpe to exercise all redevelopment and other powers.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 765 by Representative Hill of the 3rd and Tarvin of the 2nd, a bill being titled an act to create the Catoosa County Public Facilities Authority.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 766 by Representative Hill of the 3rd and Tarvin of the 2nd, a bill being titled an act to authorize Catoosa County, Georgia.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 767 by Representative Yerd of the 152nd, a bill being titled an act to amend an act to authorize the Magistrate Court of Lee County to charge a law library
Intergovernmental
fee.
coordination.
House Bill 768 by Representative Powell of the 32nd, a bill being titled an act to amend an act to provide a new charter for the city of Royston.
Intergovernmental
House
coordination.
Bill 770 by Representative Ross of the 7th, a bill being titled an act to authorize the assessment and collection of a technology fee by the Magistrate Court of Gilmer County.
Intergovernmental
House
coordination.
Bill 771 by Representative Thomas of the 39th, Wilkerson of the 38th, Allen of the 40th, and Elowitz of the 42nd, Williams of the 37th, and others. Bill being titled an act to amend an act to provide a new charter for the city of Austell.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 772 by Representative Park of the 101st, Clark of the 108th, Kendrick of the 93rd, Marin of the 96th, McLeod of the 105th, and others. Bill being titled an act to reconstitute and reestablish the Board of Registrations and Elections for Gwinnett County, Georgia.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bills 773 by Representative Park of the 101st, Clark of the 108th, Kendrick of the 93rd, Marin of the 96th, McLeod of the 105th, and others. Bill be titled an act to amend an act to provide for a Gwinnett County Board of Registrations and
Intergovernmental
Elections.
coordination.
House Bill 392 by Representative Singleton of the 71st, Kirby of the 114th, and Williamson of the 115th. A resolution honoring the lives of Master Sergeant Mark Allen and Sergeant Mike Stokely and dedicating a road and area.
Transportation.
House Resolution 393 by Representative Smith of the 18th and Kelly the 16th. A resolution honoring the life of Mr. Bradley Scott, Brad Vines, and dedicating a road in his memory.
Transportation.
That completes first readers.
Second reading of bills and resolutions. The clerk will read.
House Bill 755 by Representative Meeks of the 178th, the bill to amend an act to create a Board of Elections and Registration of Pierce County. House Bill 756 by Representative Meeks of the 178th, the bill to reconstitute and reestablish the Board of Elections and Registration of Pierce County. House Bill 757 by Representative Wynn of the 89th, Holland of the 54th, Cannon of the 58th, Metz of the 55th, Dreyer of the 59th, and others. The bill to amend the Atlanta Urban Enterprise Zone Act. House Bill 758 by Representative Davis of the 87th, Scott of the 76th, McLeod of the 105th, and Schofield of the 60th. A bill relating to inspection of public records. House Bill 759 by Representative Petrie of the 166th. A bill to authorize the governing authority of the town of Thunderbolt to levy an excise tax. House Bill 760 by Representative Park of the 101st, Clark of the 108th, Kendrick of the 93rd, Marin of the 96th, McLeod of the 105th, and others. A bill to amend an act creating a Board of Commissioners of Gwinnett County. House Bill 769 by Representative Mathiak of the 73rd and Knight of the 130th. A bill to amend an act to provide a Board of Elections for Spalding County. Senate Bill 21 by Senator Jones of the 10th, Butler of the 55th, Anderson of the 43rd. A bill to amend an act to incorporate the city of Stonecrest into DeKalb County. Senate Bill 287 by Senator Payne of the 54th, Anderson of the 24th. A bill to amend an act providing a new charter for the city of Eaton. Senate Bill 290 by Senator Hickman of the 4th. A bill to amend an act providing for the compensation of the Board of Education of Evans County. Through second readers.
Reports of standing committees. The clerk will read.
Representative Robert Dickey, the 140th District Chairman of the Committee on Agriculture and Consumer Affairs, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, the Committee on Agriculture and Consumer Affairs set on consideration the following bills of the Senate. It's instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendations. Senate Bill 49 do pass, Senate Bill 195 do pass, Senate Bill 247 do pass, Senate Bill 260 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Representative Robert Dickey, the 140th District Chairman. Representative Matt Dubnik of the 29th District Chairman of the Committee on Education submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Education set on consideration the following bill of the Senate and has instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendations. Senate Bill 159 do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Representative Matt Dubnik of the 29th District Chairman. Representative Cooper, the 43rd District Chairman of the Committee on Health and Human Services, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Health and Human Services has had under consideration the following bills of the Senate. Has instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendations. Senate Bill 46 do pass, Senate Bill 164 do pass, Senate Bill 256 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Representative Sharon Cooper, the 43rd District Chairman. Representative Lumsden of the 12th District, Chairman of the Committee on Insurance, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, the Committee on Insurance has had in consideration the following bills of the Senate. It has instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendations. Senate Bill 80 do pass by committee substitute. Senate Bill 82 do pass by committee substitute. Respectfully submitted, Representative Eddie Lumsden of the 12th District, Chairman. Representative John Corbett of the 174th District, Chairman on the Committee on Motor Vehicles, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, the Committee on Motor Vehicles has had under consideration the following bills of the Senate. It's instructed me to report the same back to the House following recommendations. Senate Bill 165 do pass by committee substitute. Senate Bill 225 do pass by committee substitute. Respectfully submitted, Representative John Corbett of the 174th District, Chairman. Representative Alan Powell of the 32nd District, Chairman of the Committee on Regulated Industries, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, the Committee on Regulated Industries has had under consideration the following bills of the Senate. It has instructed me to report the same back to the House following recommendations. Senate Bill 27 do pass. Senate Bill 114 do pass. Senate Bill 145 do pass. Senate Bill 219 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Representative Alan Powell of the 32nd District, Chairman. That completes the reading of the reports of standing committees.
This House will come to order. House will come to order. We are about to go on to morning orders, and we've got a number of people that have signed up, so not everybody's going to be reached today. If you have signed up and you're in the gallery or in 341, you need to be making your way on over just in case you are reached. But before we have morning orders, the chair wants to recognize our newest House member, Representative Angela Moore from the 90th House District. Welcome to the Georgia House. Going on now to morning orders. Chair recognizes for a morning order if you have no interest in the morning orders, that's fine, but just step outside in case there are people in here that wish to hear them. Chair recognizes for a morning order Chairman Mandy Ballinger.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yesterday, on March 16th, a violent, disturbed man perpetrated a heinous series of murders, killing 6 Asian women and 2 whites. As a former victim advocate, my heart goes out to the victims of this senseless act. My job at the time used to be to assist victims of crime like this. I am intimately familiar with the sense of staggering loss and long road to recovery this family and friends of the lost face. But I have confidence that Georgia's prosecutors will hold this man accountable for these heinous acts, assisted by the tools given to them by the General Assembly, such as the hate law we passed last year. Let us have a moment of silence to remember the victims. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Charlize Byrd for a morning order. Representative Byrd.
Good morning. I stand here to bring light to the tragic events that occurred yesterday evening. It is heart-wrenching to think of the families of those, many of whom were women, were killed and injured at the shooting that happened at the Asian-owned run business in Cherokee County, my home district. This is a horrific event, and I am thankful to the Sheriff's Office who quickly identified and apprehended the suspect. I too live not far from these tragic events that happened. First and foremost, I am an American, but I proudly recognize my Chinese heritage and my culture every day. My dad, a full-blooded Chinese, married my mother, who is Irish and English, in New Orleans, Louisiana in 1949. Something very unheard of in those days. And in fact, it was called a mixed marriage. In fact, the Chinese population was relatively small because of the Chinese Exclusion Act signed by the President Arthur in 1882 and was not repealed until 1943. I really didn't think much about being Chinese until my siblings and I started elementary school. We didn't look like everyone else. Our skin color was different, with dark, slanted eyes. At recess, the boys, most cruel, by pretending to shoot us with machine guns. That's what we heard on most days at recess. Hurtful, yes. Painful, yes. Scars, yes. We too suffered by the people who are ignorant and filled with hate. Obviously, kids back then heard discussions at home about World War II and the horrible Japanese people. Thus, the beginnings of prejudice right in your own home with your own family. My parents taught me to embrace our differences, stand strong, and never let anyone get the best of you. I was also reminded this morning of words in our Bible study, "Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never harm me." Bev and Jean, my parents, taught us Jesus loves the little ones, red, yellow, black, and white. My prayers go out to the family of the victims, and I hope they get the justice they deserve. Please join me for a moment of silence for all of these victims for the senseless crimes committed last evening. Mr. Speaker, I will yield the well.
Chair recognizes Representative Noel Williams for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today wanting to, of course, say how sickened we all were to what happened yesterday afternoon and in the evening. And I just wanted to commend my sheriff in Crisp County and the Georgia State Patrol off exit 101. By doing the duty that lies nearest, they protect us. At 3 o'clock this morning, my sheriff had a phone call. They apprehended the subject on I-75 this morning. And I just want to say to you all how proud we are of our law enforcement, our Georgia State Patrol. There does not a day goes by that we do not need to thank them. And we are certainly sickened by what happened yesterday. And may God hold them in the palm of his hands. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Will Wade for a morning order.
Good morning. I rise today to pay honor to my father. He passed on Thursday night, but right now he's in heaven. And to those reps that are from the Sumter County area and the city of Macon, and then myself being in Dawson County, that was the history that my dad and his legacy had in this state. His family settled in Sumter County in the 1700s. But today I rise to tell you that I'm thankful for the man that taught me to feed love and starve hate. He showed students who lived in homes in my community that still had dirt floors in the 70s and 80s that they could do anything that they put their mind to. He was an educator. Roy Wade was the tallest man in Dawsonville. Being at 6'9" in his heyday, every child looked at him as a giant, but he was gentle. My message is for you today, especially given the events of yesterday, ring true in what my dad taught me. And I want to share it with you and remind every one of us of the message that he taught myself and my brother and every student that ever had his 5th grade math class. And it is this: the good Lord made all of us in his image, and what he made is beautiful. And I look to each of you. Each of you are beautiful because you are what God has made. Do your best. Feed love. Starve hate. Thank you. Let us pause for a memory of my father. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Chairman Petrie and the Chatham County delegation for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We rise today to wish everyone a happy St. Patrick's Day. This is the second time in history since 1824 that we have not had a St. Patrick's Day parade in Savannah, but the people of Irish heritage will always celebrate our patron saint, St. Patrick, who brought Christianity to the people of Ireland. I also want to make a special thank you and recognition of the Honorable Don Hogan, who, as I understand it, was there with St. Patrick as he drove the snakes out of Ireland. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes Representative Wynn for a morning order. "50 seconds remaining."
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm here today to talk about the horrific and violent tragedy that took the lives of 8 people at 3 different Asian businesses in Cherokee in Atlanta. Of those 8 victims, 6 were Asian American women. We don't know the details of the shooting or the motives of the shooting, but we do know in the last year that hate crimes against Asian Americans have increased by 150%. And of those hate crimes, 68% of them are directed towards Asian American women. This is a result of xenophobic rhetoric, the labeling of the COVID-19 virus as belonging to or as the fault of China and other Asian people. So today, I want to remind us that there has been this history in this country of excluding AAPIs, including an exclusion act directed towards an entire continent, the incarceration of Japanese American, the violence against Chinese rail workers, and we have been taught as Asian Americans to keep our heads down because our parents believed it was safer for us. But what's happened is that we are now invisible, and when things happen to us, people don't speak up until a tragedy like this one occurs. It is invisibility that hasn't shielded us from hate crimes, xenophobia, or gender-based violence. And we saw all of those intersections happening yesterday. In the next few days, our priority is getting resources and support to victims of the families and respect their needs and their confidentiality. And we know there is a lot of fear in the Asian American community right now, and we're working together to support the greater community as a whole. And my ask of this chamber is to stop and call out any xenophobic rhetoric, to condemn hate against any community, and to keep these victims and families in your thoughts and prayers. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield the well.
Time for morning orders has expired. We are going on now to the rules calendar. Going on to the rules calendar. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 703.
House Bill 703 by Representative Mathis, the 144th, being titled an act to provide that future elections for the office of probate judge of Bleckley County shall be nonpartisan elections. This bill having referred to the Committee on Intergovernmental Coordination. That committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Chair recognizes Representative Mathis to present the bill.
Thank you, Speaker. Members of the House, I bring to you House Bill 703. It's a nonpartisan bill for the probate judge of Bleckley County. It's to provide a nonpartisan election. The probate judge of that county solicited me to bring this bill. We have a sole commissioner in that county. He fully is in favor of this. Mr. Speaker, I would ask that they would give us a good yes vote, and at this time I will yield the well.
Gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? What purpose does the Majority Caucus Whip, Representative Kelly, rise?
Mr. Speaker, parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, isn't it true that the judicial canons that all judges are required to follow make clear that they're not supposed to interject any party biases when making their determinations, and thus this is aligning the canons that they swear to with what they're doing?
That is my understanding. What purpose does the Minority Caucus Whip, Representative Wilkerson, rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Is it not true that there is no disagreement on that this could easily be fixed by making every judge, magistrate, and probate court judge across the state nonpartisan? We could do that in one quick bill and be done.
I'm sure the gentleman believes that to be accurate. We're not going to debate this any further. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? Have all members now voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the passage of House Bill 703, the ayes are 105, the nays are 64. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 704.
House Bill 704 by Representative Mathis of the 144th be entitled an act to provide that future elections for the office of Chief Judge of the Magistrate Court of Bleckley County shall be nonpartisan elections. This bill having referred to the Committee on Intergovernmental Coordination. That committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Chair recognizes Representative Mathis to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Again, members of the House, I bring to you House Bill 704. It's to provide for a nonpartisan election for the Bleckley County Chief Magistrate. Chief Magistrate in Bleckley County approached me with this. Our sole commissioner is fully behind this. I would appreciate your yes vote. Mr. Speaker, I yield the well.
Gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the passage of House Bill 704, the ayes are 103, the nays are 68. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to Senate Bill 43.
Senate Bill 43 by Senator Brass, the 28th, Mullis, the 53rd, Miller, the 49th, Albers, the 56th, Jane, the 47th, and others, being entitled an act to amend Code Section 33-6-4, the official code of Georgia annotated relating to the enumeration of unfair methods of competition and unfair or deceptive acts or practices and penalty. This bill having referred to the Committee on Insurance, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Representative Gamble to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I rise today to ask for your support on Senate Bill 43. This is a bill that the optometrists and the ophthalmologists see eye to eye on, which, as you know, is somewhat of a rarity. Senate Bill 43 prohibits insurers from requiring optometrists and ophthalmologists from being mandated to give discounts on non-covered materials or services. For example, many vision plans mandate that doctors provide a discount on a second pair of glasses when the second pair is not covered by the vision plan. This bill would outlaw the mandate, but doctors of optometry can still choose to offer the discount at their own discretion. This is modeled after similar legislation that was passed in 2011 for non-covered dental services. And in short, Senate Bill 43 would give greater flexibility for businesses to choose how they offer these discounts to their customers. So with that, Mr. Speaker, I would ask for the body's favorable consideration of Senate Bill 43, and I'm happy to stand for any questions.
You have no questions.
Thank you.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. What purpose does the minority leader rise?
Yeah, pursuant to House Rule 133, I ask to be excused from this vote.
Gentleman has that right, and the journal will so reflect. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the passage of Senate Bill 43, the ayes are 152, the nays are 17. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to Senate Bill 88.
Senate Bill 88 by Senator Goodman of the 8th, Jackson the 2nd, Tippins the 37th, Sims of the 12th, Burns of the 23rd, and others, be titled an act to amend Chapter 2, Title 20, the official code of Georgia annotated relating to elementary and secondary education, so as to provide that the Georgia Teacher of the Year shall be invited to serve as an advisor ex officio to the State Board of Education. This bill having referred to the Committee on Education, that committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Chair recognizes Representative LaRicchia to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, I rise to present Senate Bill 88. And like many of you, I'm sure you have a teacher that had a tremendous impact on your life. And for me, that teacher was my sister, being a public educator for almost 40 years, and she still teaches school today. And she was born to be a mother and an educator. And you've heard the story of Representative Will Wade's dad, a giant of a man at 6'9" and teaching 5th grade math. And I needed a man like that teaching me math because I struggled a little bit. But with the help of this legislature, since day one, Governor Kemp has championed education, and specifically in the area of recruiting and retaining our teachers. And that's what this bill does. This bill has 6 parts. And first, this bill would allow the Georgia Teacher of the Year to serve as an advisor and ex officio member of the State Board of Education. Next, Senate Bill 88 supports and enhances a pathway for our veterans to become alternatively certified teachers. This bill would also utilize an excess of observational resources for new teachers or teachers who need a little extra observation. Some of those high-performing teachers that have had a history and long record of being a quality educator don't need to be observed as much, and they can use those resources for new teachers or teachers that need a little bit of help. It also improves differentiated instruction and reading instruction for future teachers, especially new teachers, with those at-risk students, some that may have learning disabilities, or even for advanced students. And finally, this enhances historically black colleges and universities' role in teacher preparation and programs to make sure that the teachers that are standing in front of the classroom are representative of what the communities look like where they're leading these children. So, Mr. Speaker, this bill speaks for itself. If there are no questions, I would ask for your favorable consideration.
You do not have any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd appreciate your favorable consideration.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. And the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of Senate Bill 88. The ayes are 171, the nays are 1. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to Senate Bill 182.
Senate Bill 182 by Senators Robertson of the 29th, Albers of the 56th, Payne of the 54th, Harper of the 7th, and Anderson of the 24th, be titled An Act to Amend Chapter 68, Title 36, the Official Code of Georgia Annotated, relating the general provisions applicable to counties and municipal corporations so as to define the term Fence Detection System. This bill having referred to the Committee on Government Affairs, that committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Chair recognizes Representative Gullett to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. SB 182 is identical language to House Bill 130, which we passed a couple weeks ago. As you may remember, this bill brings uniformity to the permitting process for battery-powered alarm security fences that are designated as non-residential. This bill allows businesses to protect their assets and property in a timely manner. GMA and ACCG have been involved with the legislation and are good with the legislation as written. Members, I ask for your favorable consideration of the bill. And Mr. Speaker, I yield the well.
Gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. And the clerk will unlock the machines. What purpose does Representative Al Williams rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Is it not true, Mr. Speaker, that the champion of low voltage, Representative Hawkins, had nothing to do with this bill?
If the gentleman so states, I will accept his comments there. Have all members voted? All members, what purpose does Representative Bazemore rise?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Parliamentary
inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Is it not true that this bill will usurp local control?
I think that's just a matter that each member is going to have to decide for themselves. All right, one more parliamentary inquiry, if that's what it is. What purpose is Representative or Chairman Heath Clark rise?
Parliamentary.
State your inquiry.
Isn't it true that earlier we had some bills dealing with local control, deciding on how to do their elections, and some of the people that are voting no now voted no then because they wanted a statewide mandate dictating to the locals how to run their governments?
I'm sure the gentleman believes that to be true. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the passage of Senate Bill 182, the ayes are 103, the nays are 70. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed.
Clerk will read the caption to Senate Bill 140. Senate Bill 140.
Senate Bill 140 by Senator Mullis, the 53rd, Hatch the 50th, Miller the 49th, Harbison the 15th, Walker the 20th, and others. Be titled Act to amend Chapter 3, Title 50 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating state flag, seal, and other symbols, so as to provide for placement of a monument in honor of the Honorable Zell Brian Miller upon the Capitol grounds, the State Capitol building. This bill having been referred to the Committee on State Properties, that committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Chair recognizes Speaker Ralston to present the bill.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Colleagues, it is my honor to bring before you today Senate Bill 140, sponsored by the Senate Rules Chairman. This measure enjoys a long bipartisan list of co-sponsors, including the President Pro Tem and the Minority Leader in the Senate. It was unanimously passed by our colleagues in the State Senate. Senate Bill 140 would erect a statue or other monument on our Capitol grounds in memory of our 79th governor and former United States Senator Zell Brian Miller. Zell Miller has been called the governor who gave Georgia hope. More than 1.9 million students have been able to attend college through Georgia's Hope Scholarship Program, and more than 1.6 million four-year-olds have attended Georgia's pre-kindergarten program. In total, the Georgia Lottery has generated some $23 billion in funds for education in our state. Zell Miller had a vision of a state where your opportunities were only limited by your willingness to work for them. He was a man who, both as an elected official and a United States Marine, was guided by a resolute moral compass and an unyielding belief in the value of hard work and the power of education to change lives. For those of us fortunate enough to have known him, Governor Miller had the heart of a lion and at the same time the stubbornness of a mountain mule. But in the mountains that Zell and I call home, there are fewer traits more praiseworthy than having the courage of your convictions and having a good independent streak to stick by them regardless. He's the only individual, and probably the only individual, who could have keynoted both the Democratic and Republican national conventions. And when I attended his funeral in 2018 along with Dean Smyrie, we saw him eulogized by three, count them, 1, 2, 3 former presidents of the United States from both political parties. In the last 3 or 4 years of his life, I made a point of visiting with him 2 or 3 times a year at his home. Not because he needed company, he had plenty of that, but because to be with him made me better and I learned so much during those visits. In the man from Young Harris, Georgia got a leader who stood above partisan politics and yet enjoyed as much as anybody the give and take of the battle. In Zell Miller, Georgia got a leader who looked down that dusty dirt road he often talked about that ran through Young Harris, and he saw that as a road to a brighter future for this state and particularly its children, and a road that could take you all over the world. Madam Speaker, it is for these reasons and many more that I ask every member of this House to join with me in honoring a favorite son of our state, Governor and United States Senator Zell Bryan Miller, and I ask for your favorable consideration on Senate Bill 140. I know others want to speak to the measure, and I yield the well.
The gentleman has yielded the well. The chair recognizes Representative Williams to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. There are many in here that knew Governor Miller, with the exception of probably the Speaker because of his age. Few knew him longer than I did. I met him in 1972 on the floor of the Democratic National Convention when he was executive director of the party. That was a volatile convention. That was the very first convention that the governor did not pick delegates to the convention. And it was a tightrope to walk that Zell Miller walked brilliantly. We formed a friendship. A few years later, he came and asked me to help him run for lieutenant governor, which I willingly did. The pay was fantastic, an occasional Coca-Cola and maybe a hamburger on a good day. But when he was elected, he did what had never been done before. He made the lieutenant governor's office look like Georgia. I was the first African-American session aide to lieutenant governor in Georgia. In that first session, I met a young guy who had a huge afro, long car, and he walked in and replaced Moses. That was Dean Smyrie. And in that group of us, he hired 2 African Americans, administrative assistants, Elizabeth Martin and Lillian Lewis, the widow of John Lewis. He was a mountain populist, and I knew nothing about mountain populists until I got to know him. Yes, he was stubborn as a mule. But I was used as a sacrificial lamb a couple of times. When he was really hot and he and the Speaker Murphy were at arms, he'd send me to take the message to the Speaker. I think he knew I was the most expendable person in the office. And I'd go over, he'd give me this rip-roaring message, not written out. I had to repeat what he said, and he'd say, "You tell him just like I said it." And I'd walk in, and when I'd tell the Speaker would look at me and say, "I know he didn't say it like that." But he'd snatch that cigar out of his mouth, "But you tell him just what I said." When I got back, he'd ask me what he said, and I'd water it down. He said, "Williams, you're a liar." But he had a heart of gold, but he was a lion. In his later years, many of you, particularly Democrats, will remember only him speaking at the Republican National Convention and some of the candidates he supported. But I remember the Zell Miller that created an atmosphere that makes it possible in many ways that this Capitol looks like it looks today. He had a genuine love for people, and one of my most treasured items is the wedding gift he gave to Olivia and I 43 years ago this coming December. But above all else, he had one of the strongest wives I've ever known in my life, and that was Shirley Miller. Now, you talk about a lady. She was strong. And because this state has always been like that, it didn't pay constitutional officers and especially legislators what they were worth. Hint, hint. It was a very low pay for lieutenant governors. But he was available. First time I ever heard a country song was in his office, and I didn't know what in the world that was he was playing, and I asked him, "What is that?" He had a love for country music like you wouldn't believe. I'm not going to ever forget him. I know very few people more deserving of a statue at this Capitol than Zell Bryan Miller. What a giant of a man. What a dear friend, whom I'll miss forever. I urge you to vote yes to this resolution. With that, Madam Speaker, I yield the well.
The gentleman has yielded the well. The chair recognizes Representative Smyrie to speak to the bill.
How you doing? Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's a pleasure for me to come today and speak on Senate Bill 140, Zell Bryan Miller. And I want to say first that I talk with Shirley Miller maybe 2 or 3 times a year and his grandson Brian and have a relationship with the Millers. And one of the biggest honors I've ever received, I think you received it in 2018, the Turtle on the Fence Post Award. And I received it in 2019, the honor with the Zell Miller's Foundation. And I really got to know Zell Miller at an early time. I met him in 1975. In fact, that gentleman right there from the 168th District set up the meeting. He was a staffer for, at that time, Lieutenant Governor Miller. And I went to see him, and we've had a relationship and a friendship since that time. And he's been said that he's been stubborn, and we had a great relationship, Governor Miller and I, and sometime we had some very spirited comments. He was, that would be on the mild side, but he is, in my opinion, one of the most consequential governors in the history of our state. If you've never heard it, I think you ought to listen to his 1993 State of the State address. It's one of the most courageous, timeless, and prophetic messages. I've listened to it maybe 6 or 7 times. And in that speech, he talks about leadership, and he talks about the state and the forward-moving state. And he talked about, for the first time, changing the Georgia state flag, which was very courageous. In fact, it almost cost him his election. He won by 30-some thousand votes at that time. And after he won, he called us in one day and said, "You know what?" He said, "Georgia needs hope." And he came up with the Hope Scholarship Program. That was not the first time I heard the word hope and lottery. A guy named John White, state representative down in Albany, and Representative Williams, remember, talked to us about a lottery. And but Zell talked about it, Governor Miller talked about the lottery, and he said what we ought to do is designate the money for the future of our state and invest it in the intellectual capital of the young people in our state and keep our best and our brightest in our state. And so Zell Miller, in his book written by Richard Hyatt, the governor who gave Georgia hope. It's one of the best reads I've read, and it talks about his entire life. And so I want to come this morning and say in 1991, I remember I was on the committee at that time. Higher Ed was called University System of Georgia Committee. And I went on later to chair that committee after Dubose Porter was at that time one of his floor leaders, and he handled the legislation in hope. And I thank Representative Gerald Green, Representative Butch Parrish, and Representative Mary Margaret Oliver, and Representative Alan Powell, I think, were the members that were here in in that time. I might have missed somebody, I apologize. But those are the ones I can remember that were here when we passed, when we had the bill in the committee in the University System of Georgia. And I went with Zell when he bought the first lottery ticket on Peachtree Street. It was a great moment for the state of Georgia, and the rest is history. So, Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, I'm honored and delighted to come and to give recognition to a giant of a man who gave a lot to this state, a man who was historic in his governorship, and I remember going to the state senate, going to lieutenant governor for 16 years, going to governor for 8 years, and going to the U.S. Senate for 6 years. He just was a tremendous governor and a tremendous person, and I enjoyed when you rode out together to his funeral and having a conversation about Zell Miller. So, Mr. Speaker, this is very timely and very appropriate that we erect a statue in the honor of a giant of a man, an individual who gave much for this state. And you've heard me say this 100 times. You make your living by what you get, but you make your life by what you give. And Zell Miller made his life by giving. For that, we ought to be very, very thankful. So I'm asking everyone, if you would, please vote in favor of Senate Bill 140 so that we can move on, get this done, and have the ceremony, and get his family over here, and salute to an individual that gave much to his state and gave much to Georgia and much to this nation. With that, Madam Speaker, I will yield the well. Thank you.
The gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of the bill. The yeas were 172, the nays were 1. The bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed.
Clerk will read the caption to a group of privileged resolutions.
Honoring the life and memory of Woody Jean Neal Persons. Honoring the life and memory of Thomas Anderson Andy Roach. Recognizing Gwinnett County District 4 Commissioner Marlene Fosk. Recognizing and commending the Honorable Colonel Dr. Sam Vernero, Jr. Honoring the Scott's Miracle Grow Company for its most generous donation for face shields to Georgia hospitals across the state. Recognizing and commending Representative Georgiana T. Sinkfield. Recognizing and congratulating Dr. Ivan H. Allen, and for other purposes, that completes the reading of the privileged resolutions.
Is there any objection to adopting the privileged resolutions? The chair hears none, and the resolutions are adopted. Okay, we're about to go on to announcements. But before we do, Chair has been advised that today is the 59th wedding anniversary of Representative Holmes and her distinguished husband, Paul. Congratulations. Okay, if you signed up for an announcement, please be ready to go. Chair recognizes Representative Gilliard for an announcement. Chair recognizes Chairman Petrie for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm filling in for Chairman Petrie. We will have a Human Relations and Aging Committee at 2 o'clock today in room 341. Human Relations and Aging, 241 at 2 o'clock.
Chair recognizes Chairman Watson for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Rural Caucus will meet at 12 o'clock. We've got Brian Hudson as our host, and he's bringing some CVS folks and some pharmaceutical folks to talk about that, and look forward to seeing you there. Thank you. 12 o'clock.
Chair recognizes Representative Gullett for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just an announcement for Governmental Affairs, 2 o'clock today, 406 CLOB, Government Affairs.
Chair recognizes Chairman Jaspers for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Transportation members will be meeting at 2 o'clock today. We look forward to seeing you look at their Senate bills. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Chairman F. Strachan for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Judiciary members, if you will come to the front of the chamber upon adjournment for our annual committee photo. We also have lunches available for Judiciary members in room 132, and the committee will meet at 1:30 today in room 132. Thank you, Speaker.
Chair recognizes Chairman Werkheiser for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Industry and Labor Committee will meet today at CLOB at 3 o'clock. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Chairman Barr for an announcement.
Listen up, Code Revision. Code Revision, we are having a meeting today at 2 o'clock in room 415 CLOB. Code Revision, 2 o'clock. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Chairman Dollar for an announcement.
Thank you, Speaker. Creative Arts and Entertainment will meet this afternoon, the Music Subcommittee. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Gilliard for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today is Savannah Seafood Sampler Day. If you get a chance, stop by room 216 at 12 o'clock. And in the words of Al Williams, bring your own hot sauce. Low country balls, snow crabs, and we're going to have a good time. Thank you.
That completes our announcements. The chair recognizes the Majority Leader of the House for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I move that this House stand in recess until 2 p.m. today, then stand adjourned until 10 a.m. Thursday, March the 18th, 2021.
The Majority Leader has moved that this House be in recess until 2 o'clock p.m., whereupon we will stand adjourned until Thursday, March 18 at 10 a.m. All those in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed will say no. The ayes have it. This House will be in recess till 2 p.m., and then we will be adjourned until Thursday at 10 a.m.